Hi, you guys. Welcome to my channel, Life Lessons Learned. I'm Sherry, and this is an experience I want to share with you. But I have a question first. Have you ever applied for a job that you knew damn well you didn't qualify for? I'm just asking that because I do not do that. Okay. That being said, I did just that. So let me explain. If you haven't seen my prior video entitled Lessons Learned Working in a Nursing Home, you may want to check that one out first because it details how in high school I went to a trade school. So we were taught or trained in whatever profession of your choice you thought you would like to go into. And at that time, mine was the healthcare field. But after having worked during the last year of high school in that field, I decided that wasn't something I wanted to pursue. So now I'm graduated, 18, out of school, and about to be, of course, going to the university, but I'm also looking for a job. And because I was no longer interested in the trade that I had been trained on, I'm out here just looking for a job. So I lived in Detroit at the time, and my idea was to get a lot of my resumes together and then just go from place to place to see what buildings, what offices may be hiring, currently hiring. And also, of course, you look in the newspaper and see who may be hiring and what kind of skills they're looking for. Notice I said newspaper because this was back in the day. So before your cell phones, before your Google, before your texting and your email, people looked in the newspaper for jobs or talked to people that they knew, that kind of thing, or just went to places that had, help wanted signs in the window or anything like that. So I'd gone to a few places, and then I finally came upon this building that was very impressive looking in downtown Detroit. It was a high rise, and it had more than one employer in it. So it was like five or six different businesses there. So I was like, well, I can't go too bad here. So I walked in, and there's a long lobby, and then you get to the receptionist desk. And there was a receptionist there, of course. And she asked if she could help me. So I advised her that I was, out job hunting and I have my resumes with me. And I was wondering if there were any of the places in the building that were looking to hire currently, if they were hiring. So she asked if I had a few moments to sit in the lobby and she would, make a few phone calls. So I'm thinking her idea was to call some of the places in there that had businesses and see if any of them were, in the market for hiring someone. So I was probably there for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then she called me over and said that there would be a gentleman that would come down to, take a look at my resume. And she asked if I still had a few more moments to do that. I'm like, lady, I got all day. I'm looking for a job. I didn't say that, of course, but I was like, sure. So when I, sat back in the lobby, it wasn't a good 3 or 4 minutes when this gentleman came down. And to say this guy was thin, I mean, I think he was the thinnest adult besides Michael Jackson that I've ever seen. I was like, he was, yeah, like awkwardly thin, but that has nothing to do with this story. So he held his hand out to me and introduced himself, and he asked if I had a few moments for him to interview me. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, like I was really excited. So he said there's a small office off to the side, and he would like to take me in there and he could ask me questions and take a look at the resume. And this office had, it was a glass like office, so the receptionist could see us in there sitting and talking and things like that. So I was like, sure. So during this time, and he sat down and crossed his legs and he asked for my resume. So I handed over to him. And of course, he sees all of the things, all of the skills that I acquired in high school and at the nursing home, like, taking temperatures, taking blood pressure, knowing how to make a miter bed sheet, miter cornered, I should say, bed and all of that, but nothing in relation to business or office work. But I think he just didn't want to assume I didn't know any of that. So he was like, do you know how to type? And I hadn't taken the secretarial trade. Remember, I had taken the nursing one. So I said no. And then he said, have you ever done data entry? And I was like, no. And he said, what about customer service? Again, no. Have you ever done anything where you're answering phones? No, sir. So he said, oh, okay. And then he looked over the resume a little longer because I don't know what he was looking for. There's nothing more to see. And then he said, how are you when it comes to training, being trained? And I looked at him and I said, I know that resume that you are holding in your hand doesn't apply to anything that you may be thinking of right now. I said, but there's not a job that um, can be taught that I wouldn't be able to learn. I said, so when it comes to training, I'm actually one of the best. So he said, okay. So then he kind of tapped his hand on the table, and he didn't shake his head, but I can imagine him shaking his head, going, "What the hell?" And he said, "Do you mind if I go and confer with someone?" He said, "I'll be right back." And I said, "Sure, that's fine, thank you." So when he walks out, my first thought was, "Can't type, don't know anything about bookkeeping, no customer service, no data entry, no shorthand, none of the things he had said." So I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, I get it. He's probably gonna come back with a mop and a bucket and say, 'Have you ever swept the floor? Do you know how to mop?'" So my second thought was, I could just get up. I know that I told you that room had glass doors, so I was thinking I could just get up, walk past that receptionist and say thank you, act like, the interview's over with, and go on about my merry business. But then I thought about how friendly and professional this guy was and how he really did try to see what skills I had. And I didn't think it would be a good thing. I thought it would be really rude for him to come back now if he did come back and I'm gone. So I was like, okay, you came in here looking for a job, so don't just leave them, like that. So he came back probably in about 7 minutes or so, and he had a young woman with him in her mid 30s, and he introduced me to her, and he said, if you don't mind, I would like for her to interview you. She does have some openings in her department that are more geared toward on the job training if you're interested in that. So I was like, sure, I would love to hear about that. So he left us, and then she came in, and he had already given her the resume that he had taken upstairs with him. And so she said they had already discussed it and looked it over and everything. And then she asked the same questions he asked, typing, shorthand, customer service, data entry. And I think she just wanted to confirm for herself that I had answered in the negative and for all of those, which, I mean, what else can you do? So she looked at me and she said, how how soon would you be able to start? She said, we are looking to fill a position, but how soon would you be able to start? And I'm thinking, lady, I can start in 10 minutes at this point. But I said, well, as soon as as the, position is open, I said, I can start today if that's possible. So she kind of laughed and she said, well, I tell you what, I'll get you to HR today because you'll have to fill out the paperwork and do all of that. And she said, but honestly, we would like for you to start tomorrow. So I said, that's fine. And she told me the hours. I told her I'm always prompt. As you guys know, I'm Princess Prompt, okay? And I told her I would be overjoyed to be able to start, and that I'm really looking forward to it and eager to be able to be a part of her department and her team. So I say all of that to say, I mean, even when I was going to these places, I'm thinking, I don't know what they're going to be asking for or what kind of positions may be open. But again, as I said, I know that I take training really well to a point where soon I'm the one that's doing the training because I like to pick up on things. I'll ask questions. I'd like to know that um, all facets of whatever job or whatever position I'm going to hold so that I know that I can do, you know, um, things in other areas that may need to be done that's related to what I've been trained on. So I was like, "Oof." But still, you guys have to know now, I have no idea what they are talking about me doing. So she said if she would sit there with me and just go over what some of the expectations would be and everything. And she said, if I wanted it to be on a trial basis, like a week or two, they were fine with that because they're just looking to hire and everything. So that being said, I was able to start the very next day. Building was very impressive. The people were professional. Um, it was a type of business where if people's lost their charge cards or they were stolen or they wanted to increase their limit or put a stop on them while they were out of town. Not a stop, but let us know that they would be out of town so that their charges could still go through to get approved. That's the type of company it was. So we dealt with MasterCard and Visa at the time. Those were the two major charge cards in the US. Now, everyone has a charge card, but back then those were the major ones. And they actually had these big books that we would have to look through, like if someone's car got stolen, and you have to look up that 16-digit number to see if it were stolen or not or lost. Merchants would call and say, "Hey, I'm trying to get this card approved. It looks like it has it's been declined," and then we have to go through all of that to see why it was declined, if it was lost, if it was stolen, if it was just, reported to be stopped for a while and that kind of thing. But it wound up being a very, very good, um, I can't say first job because remember the babysitting one when the lady left me with 4 kids for 2 weeks and abandoned me. If you haven't seen that one, take a look at it. And then, of course, I had the nursing home, the job at the nursing home, and then this one. But this one I was at for quite a few years, and it wasn't far from me. I was able to catch the bus to the job, but that didn't last long because I wound up just buying me a new car so I can go to university and make it to work and get back home and that kind of thing. So I did buy a brand new car when I was 18. Um, Love the job. I love the people. I actually okay, so I got trained on everything that I needed to get trained on, and then I got trained on things that weren't needed, but I became a team leader and was able to train others and actually just overall had a great experience. And I think back on that and I'm thinking to myself, why did that guy even think that they could even use me? I'm like, do you do this? No, no, no. Okay, hold on. Let me go get someone. That was very, I guess I'm thinking rare, but maybe it's not. But the cards did wind up in my favor for that one. And I'll never forget how bad I felt. Is it bad I felt or badly? I'll never forget how badly I felt when he left the room and said that he'll be back. Because I'm thinking, this man's gonna leave me sitting up in here, or he's gonna come back with a mop and a bucket in his hand. So I was really grateful for that. It was a good experience. But I can tell you the lesson that I did learn was not to go applying for jobs I'm not qualified for because that's just not a good thing. And I mean, if you're really sure and confident that you can be trained on something or that there's not a lot of learning curve that you'll go through, then I can see people doing that. But what I'm talking about is going in saying you have skills, knowing you don't have skills. They say, "Can you do Excel?" And you go, "Yeah," and then they give you an Excel sheet the second day of work, and you're sitting there looking, I don't know. But this is life lessons learned. Remember my mantra: knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. And the learning of an application, I always get that one mixed up. The learning of a lesson is the application of it. And like I said, from then on, I made sure my resumes were up to date, my skills were up to date. I researched the companies that I would be going to asked for employment at, so I knew what positions they had and if I qualified for the skill set and the services that they were looking for their employee to have. So that was my lesson of not qualified at all for a job and still wound up getting hired. And that's it. Thanks, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. You'll see all my other videos as I post them. For those that are interested in my books, they are available at Amazon.com. And my website is sherrybrantley.com. Thanks, guys. See you later.